Hello world, Najee Coach here. Today, I think what I'm going to be doing is answering a good set of questions from Darius. He's a person who's been around the pod layer community over the years and has recently kind of come back into focus after being away for a bit. And I had planned for today to be a recanvassing of the pod layer community in general, to go over everyone's case. I think people would like that, but I'm waiting for some media to come in, and I'd like to do that first. So I'm going to hold off and make that next week's vlog. I am getting close to Data Bedrock, and I was hoping to have it before my birthday, but you know, it is what it is. Data Bedrock is a threshold I want to feel I truly have passed. And so for my birthday, I have definitely given myself quite a treat. I believe I can see the shore. I can see the shore of Data Bedrock. And with that, I believe if I work hard that I could possibly have it done by the end of this year. And that would be my end of year little gift to myself and to the world. So hopefully that will work out. That's the plan, and full tilt ahead. All right, I haven't asked Darius yet if I can show the video that he is referencing in here, but if not, I think what I'm saying will still make sense, but maybe he will allow us to do that, in which case the link will be below. If not, I think these points are still relevant. All right. Hi, Coach. Apologies if my sister and I were abrasive. He's talking about in the video. In the video, they joke around with each other about people they know, and also as a part of that, joking about, you know, the ups and downs of being around as pod layer theory has grown, and the various corrections that have been made and what it does to your headspace. And so no, I that's not too abrasive, and I told him so. Now, just since you mentioned it, this gets into where what is too anything or not enough. See, when I'm looking at the way you and Shagofa were interacting, his sister, it seemed cool. There was a good back and forth there, and it was good. I saw more cues that allowed me to improve my confidence of what I was thinking, that you both are Xeni. I think that is a chance that you are both Xeni. I want to speak conservatively now because, as you know, we've been working on your case for a while. This is a big sort of new way of looking at the data, and I want to give it time to settle. But yes, with the latest video, I'm seeing more. And so I believe both Darius and Shagofa are Xeni. He says, I thought it'd be a good idea for you to take a closer look at your friend Jailene. I hope you don't take offense to that, but she looks similar to the women you've recently purified to Xeni. All right. Yes, it is a good idea to do that, which is why I'd already planned to recanvass our entire small community. Then no, I don't take offense to that being asked. That's reasonable. In fact, it would be improper of me to not do that kind of due diligence. Then, as far as looking similar to recently purified Xeni, not to me. So perhaps they do look that way to you. To me, with my current understanding, they do not look similar. I can see with Jailene, she actually has broad cheeks, and there are some Xeni who have broader cheeks. For example, like Jennifer Goodwin, and that's another one that plays in the same show with her. There's like Ditchin Locken, played in Dollhouse. They're playing as Laura Lenny, who have rather broad faces. So Jailene has broader cheekbones, but I don't believe that alters my view of her overall elongation of energy. And then also perhaps you see her a lot where she is helping to moderate the team. She's good at that. And she also does work at a high level doing that kind of stuff in a professional capacity. But so she has strong Z, and that's what you're seeing most of the time, where you're seeing her in a Z active mode a lot of times when you're seeing her on camera. But even there, she has a heaviness of voice and a looseness in the digits and several other things that show that even those modes she is Xeni. But then the rest of the time, those cues are even more pronounced than what you are seeing. So I still believe Jailene to be a Chinese, but it is good to take a look at that for sure. Next. Further, I am somewhat puzzled by the following statements you've made. This is he's quoting me on his case. If you look at your pauses in speaking, this is when your emoting is heaviest, not in the speaking portion, and when this happens, your lips have a downward turn of zhai, unaware lip rolling and pursing, and a semi-slack, open-mouthed expectancy. Okay, so he says, this is him. I sort of follow your concept of bracing. When I argue, I do similar maneuvers to Xeni, such as Putin and Merkel, which I recognize in myself. However, this concept of unaware mouth is very foreign to me. For example, when I'm speaking to someone or to you through video, I'm still aware of the audience and of my lips moving. What exactly is unaware lip rolling pursing? All right, so there's a couple things embedded there. First is he's asking about it being foreign. Now that is an issue with words, and I may need to come up with an expression that is better than aware, unaware. I don't know right now what that would be. Perhaps, proactive versus reactive, although we really already have those words in the theory, but they have not caught on as much, and I think that's for a reason. But we could try branding them stronger. Anyway, I understand there is limitations of language when it's trying to actually define phenomenon, particularly when it is phenomenon that is unexpected and subtle. All right, so as far as the lip rolling pursing is, there's a lot of maneuvers that can mitigate what I'm about to say here, but as a general tendency, Zhai users tend to do more emoting on the pausing, and at pauses there are lip rolls, things of this nature. All humans do them, but there are certain ones that are done on pausing and certain lip rolling that is done more, I'm exaggerating for you, but it's actually preemptive to talking. It's not a settling motion. So there's things like that are more designed to go forward. I did a little rolly one there that's kind of a combination of the two, but then on the tower power Zhai and Zai, it's more, and it's holding or internalizing. Things like this. Okay, so all humans do both those things on both sides, but with Zhai users, it tends to be more pronounced on the pausing phases, and the lip rollings tend to go more inward, okay, rather than outward. Xi tends to press the lips together and do more outward stuff. So this goes inward with the Zhai, and the upper lip, I'm sorry, we'll start with Zhai, with the lower lip coming up. And the U, the downwardness, actually comes from like the lip in general sort of being pressed up by the lower lip and then turned down by the corners. Both things happen. We talk about the corners turning down. That's true. But this lower lip also comes up into the upper lip. This can be trickier to see on samples, for example, that have, lip thicknesses that are odd or just counterintuitive. But in general, more lower lip action on the Zhai, more upper lip with the Xi. Where it lifts the smile up and sideways as compared to down and sideways, but less wide, narrow sideways. So down and narrow sideways as compared to up and wide sideways. And then another point he's saying is that he's still aware of the audience and his lips moving. Yes, this is why perhaps it's what may find new words, but there is a using of that to settle yourself. You may be aware you're doing it, but that awareness is actually, I believe, your Z. Your Z and your Nai, situational awareness. So you're aware of it as like a situational. But this awareness is specifically your emotive state. And Zhai is designed more to hold your state, purify it, make it more perfect or harmonious, balanced, centered. So it's a centering thing as compared to a pushing or pulling, trying to get things to move in certain directions, steering things. So the awareness is that the emoting is mainly done for your purpose, and that's correct. That's how Jai works, is it's done to center you. This also has a radial effect to those who are around you. They are affected by Jai very strongly. But Jai's first primary purpose is as a internal subjective mechanism for centering a person. And it's really cool. I'm a big fan of Jai for those reasons. But Ji, the awareness is more, as I'm expressing, I'm trying to give it tone. And so my mouth is moving in certain ways to give it the tone that I want it to have. Now, don't get me wrong, not that Z and I can't do that kind of thing very well, but the purpose that it starts with is not the same as far as momentum or modulation energy. But this again gets into the limitations of words. So when I to make it as firm as I can, the unawareness is referring to the maneuver being done, like your lip rolling. If you look at you, you're actually like feeling something. You're internalizing something, and you're holding a position or discovering it within yourself with that. That's how the maneuvers are done. So it is a self-discovery, self-validating kind of process. So it's that. Now you are aware that your lips are doing certain things as you do that, and that relates to the environment, and people may be seeing it a certain way. But that's separate from its purpose. And I think if you see that, you're doing them during the pause phases. So it is a reactiveness. Next up. I am quite aware that I used to be very tightly wound, and I would keep my lips very tightly together, as I had these conceptions of masculinity that did not allow for the slack mouth. However, I see these traits in my family members, and since reaching a better place in my life, I've realized that keeping my lips in their natural slack position is more comfortable and native to me. Is it possible that slack mouth is just a learned trait? No, I don't believe so, because that, as you said, you had to put effort into doing that. And I do see that with a lot of politicians, for example. Zenite politicians, they will flatten the mouth at the end, but it has this, it's not natural to do it. That's a modulation maneuver. It doesn't naturally want to rest there. So I believe you can learn maneuvers that work with the powers that you have in their ordering, but no, the natural tendency of slackness, that seems to be something all the Jai users we've seen share. And when they take it away, it looks like they're doing that purposefully. That's what we've been seeing so far. Also, your recent purifications of the Nijai, or formerly thought to be Nijai members within the Padre community, I can comprehend. They're objective, and they share Zijai. Correct. Concerning my own case, I do not understand how you can see Zijai in me after seeing Jizai in me for almost 7 years now. All right, that's a pointed but good question. There's a lot of layers or different things that are influencing it, so I'll just kind of talk and see which ones tumble out. First is, I've not had 7 years of looking at your case, and that is something I've become more and more firm about, and those who've been following me know this, is that I, even to the point of my family now, in the last filmings, that's how far I've gone with it, is that I need to be able to reference the media needed for a case on any cases that I can be considered to be responsible for. I cannot be responsible for cases that I don't actually have access at will to whatever media is needed to read it. So that's one thing. Then, as far as how I saw it, okay. Well, this gets into something that I mentioned in the purifications done recently on the Zenai males. Is, I don't want to rehash it all here. You can go watch it there. But basically, you have to kind of break down what's happening with the lens. You have the instrument, that's their mojo. It does maneuvers. Those maneuvers are noted and then seen through by the ping coming from your lens. That ping comes back, though, to you in your totality first before it goes back to the lens portion of you. And see, the maneuvers can be confusing, and inside you are reading the lens which read them. And so you can be misreading what you read. So for example, in your case, we had a history of not a lot of people wanting to interact with us, Podlair coming initially on the scene, and those that did, there was a lot of, in the very beginning, Naiji males who were kind of psycho, just thirsty for attention, just wanting drama, and so that was something that was happening, and it was annoying. So when your case came along, as you mentioned, we've had some things over the years, but things are much better now, and I'm happy about that. But back then, when your energy came on, I was struck by I had kind of like it's another one of these things. So two things there. One, I believe you're the first Xeni that showed serious interest. So if I'm correct that you're a Xeni, and I believe I got the other ones, I think those are still mainly Naiji because you were different. You and Bruno were different. But I said Naiji at first because of a certain kind of intensity. So I read it and I was like, this person's trying to mind job. And as you've seen from the recent Xeni purifications and the purifications I've done over the years when I wasn't really considering your case anymore, there were several iterations that I was becoming more aware of the slinky, psychologically savvy riffs of Xeni and their propensity and successfulness at kind of mind-jobby maneuvers, being magnetic, hypnotic, things of that nature that I was associating more with Nai Alpha or Nai Source mojos, and particularly the Naiji. So the same thing happened with ones I mentioned, like Muhammad Ali and so forth. A lot of those Xeni, you can apply the same thing to yourself, where I was seeing the maneuvers they were doing, the kind of mind-jobby, bardic abilities that they were doing, and I was then thinking I was seeing something else. In their cases, though, that got beat down because they're in my database and I see them every so often. I will rotate through and I will see their cases. And as I did, each time I went through, they started to trouble me more and more because I had more samples that were Xeni that fit them than I had that were Naiji. As my lenses were getting stronger and stronger, I was not seeing many more of those kinds of riff of Naiji, which were actually Xeni. That's because I wasn't making that mistake anymore, or at least not nearly like what I was before, but then these were still kind of there. So this gets back into when I would then go look at them, and this is why it gets into something I mentioned in the Xeni male one about this is spiritual, because I thought I looked. I thought I actually looked, but what I was actually seeing was the maneuvers. But then when I was like, I need to see if it's a maneuver thing. And so I tried to see through the maneuvers, and that got me part way, but there was still more cloudiness of the amount of time that I had them where they were. It made me think I was seeing something else than I was. It thwarted my aim to get truth of data. I was aiming for that, but I didn't get it. A lot of times, I know that I don't have it, and I'm getting better now at this other area, which is always going to be there, where it feels like you got the right hit. It does. You know what I mean? So there's that, plus then the weight of the community having seen Muhammad Ali for so long, thinking it's one thing, this is going to be trouble. That kind of thing makes it difficult to look at what your lens is trying to tell you. What your lens and your higher processes are trying to show you that the lens is showing. All right, so yes, what differentiates Z from G, and isn't G a broad concept that applies to all human beings? Don't all human beings need to do G in order to function within society? Politeness, social cues, social structure, these are all broadly human concepts, not exclusive to G. Okay, so this gets into the limitations of wording. So yes, all humans do politeness. All humans do politeness, all humans do social cues, all humans are aware of social structure. But not all humans are doing G. Not all humans are doing Z. That's different. And they do different careers. So those are two very strong things. There's the visual, once you can read it, of, which is why, by the way, this is awkward for me to be saying, oh, I got your case wrong. It is awkward for me to say that I got your case wrong, but it is important for me to do that because my latest, strongest lens and latest, largest collection that is the cleanest and best organized it has been, I believe, it's saying that, oh, I made a mistake here. And so that's because if you look at your mouth and you train on those who are in the collection who have Xi mouth, you're doing that pantheon of maneuvers. And G is something else. And then if you look at the careers that say Zi-Ni and Nai-Ji show up in, there's some crossover, but there's also a lot of divergence. So something is going on, and it is based on whether or not there is Xi and or Xi and what level it's at, plus all the other powers and what level they're at. But it's a thing that can be distinguished, seems to be a universal phenomenon in all the humans you've looked at so far, and it is greatly affecting how people's life trajectories go. Figuring out the way to name these various components and figuring out how to teach people to see them under their own power. Those are the big challenges. Myself, I am most comfortable in seeing it for myself. Then my next comfortability is being able to point out what I'm seeing so you can see it, such as the things that the faces are doing. But the right name is more challenging. And I don't even know if there actually ever is going to be a right name. Maybe at some point we're just going to have to go Xi mouth, G mouth, and everyone just has to know what that means. There is no other word for it. Unaware might be wrong, aware, proactive, reactive, social cues versus moral compass. Xi. Because, and the difference is, visually there's a difference, and then it plays out in career differences. So right there, it's a thing, it can be seen, and it's affecting everything, but what words actually accurately capture it, I will need more people than me with better reading abilities of the phenomenon than they have now to do that. Like I'd love a caricature artist to actually do caricatures of the cues. What's the right way to do that? What's the right way to paint that, to draw that? Well, you'd have to have a caricature artist that actually can see the phenomenon, and then they can exaggerate how that needs to be done. There's probably going to be lots of different sciences that are going to be based off of this, and they may use their own individual lexicons that help them come to terms with it as what it is, relates to what they're doing. And you can see from the way that I roll, and I've been doing the whole, research and so forth, that the lion's share of my time and energy is trying to figure out the phenomenon and then be able to train other people to also see it. Then its description and its implications and its shepherding to various disciplines, it'll take all of us to do that. And there may just be on certain things no right word or right role, or there's a lot of things like that. We'll just need a lot of heroic humans that have a lot of ability who can see it. So that's where I'm focused on. And then we'll take it from there. But I understand the confusion, which is why I'm glad you're also really focusing on the physical, like a tracker. That's better. To get what we're talking about, you really need to come at this like a tracker. Being a philosopher, that comes secondary after you can see it as a naturalist. You need to be actually able to observe it in nature, and then you can philosophize what that means exactly, philosophy and politics, whatnot, and then try and write down words that capture that insight. So see it, then process it with your abilities, and then try to find a way to bridge that to everybody else. But we're all going to be working off of it being there, and that it has all these implications. All right, so you're asking me to help. It's a good question here. I think you asked very good questions. So let's see, I've spoken to my sister about this, and she doesn't know what you mean by unaware mouth. Like me, she also has awareness of her mouth when she speaks, although her articulation is rather chilly. Please help me understand the Zhi and the Z Zhi spectrums. Okay, so that's a good way to come at it, because that's really what we're dealing with here. So we'll start mechanical, and we'll build up on that what we can, and we can have further conversations. From a simply mechanical perspective, or observational of physiology, is that Xi users tend to have tone in their articulation. So, well, first, let's start here. Humans seem to use one of these powers, Z or Xi, to push forward and to make points, sentences that are structured. And then they pause and some can pause more, depends on what it is in their hierarchy, but they pause to feel on solid ground. That solid ground can be more of an emotive kind of solid ground, or it can be more of a logical solid ground. And again, these words are tricky, but I will try to remove as many words as I can here and just talk to you like we're just two dudes hanging out, and I'm trying to point out stuff to you in nature. There is tone and delivery. You said you can observe that in your sister, and maybe you can observe it yourself as well. If you see other Z Zhi users, they follow that same pattern. So when articulating, their psyches, and this is where it gets into the philosophical of it, what word this is, but their psyches, for whatever reason, this again, from this point on, we're into conjecture and philosophizing and semantics, which are worthy pursuits, but those are the pursuits that are happening. The point is, what the psyche is consistently giving them either momentum energy, if they're a Z or Xi user. We'll start with that, the pilot power. They're getting momentum, they feel more confident, their psyche feels more important to give a neutral tone delivery or a toned delivery. Make of that what you will. Use what words which you will. That part I believe I gave you right there is like hard forensic fact. That's a thing humans do. And when they have one of them, like I have Xi, I'm toning. I tone, or I cool. Or I can cool as I do like this, but I'm holding my Xi. It wants to do this. It wants to mean, happy, whatever, but it wants to give tone. I feel better, more comfortable, more flowing with tone in my delivery. And even, Xi users who say they don't, well, you can say that what you want. Your face is doing what your face is doing, which is gives tone when it gives words. Even, for example, Zai, who actually can modulate that very well and perhaps even come from a background like academia where you want to really minimize tone and delivery. Still, this is very mechanical now. The way that they put their words together, it wrinkles different. So we'll start there, pure mechanicals. Xi users and Zhi users, their lips wrinkle different, purse different. They focus on different motions. Okay, so there's a palette difference there. Then there also seems to be a which phase in conversation is it? And pauses should be thought of not like small. They're actually big enough because you're actually pausing in between each word really as you're weighing it. So there's micro pauses, and then you can pause where you're not talking at all for periods of time, just centering yourself. Although you can do other things too. Same thing applies to the tower powers. There is a resonating that humans do. They articulate and then they resonate. And they can spend as much time as they want in either one of those phases. When they're doing that, some people have it to where they have tone in their pauses. Go look, Darius, at your thing. Whenever you or your sister pause and your mouth is slack, or you do something with your lips, it's done more when you're not talking in reaction. And this is consistent. As compared to myself, I actually do more warming, like I've been doing more toning in general here, but that's because I'm talking. But when right there, that what you saw there, that was very natural. It just, when I pause on Zai. I pause cool. I'm a cool pauser. I'm starting very basic and very mechanical because like you said, it gets so heavy and heady conceptually after that, and find the right words is difficult. But that's we know. There are different maneuvers of the mouth, and they happen consistently on either the pushing or holding phases. And these differences are part of a series of other differences that show up consistently and have a lot of things to say about careers people go into, for example. This may be obvious, but I'll say it anyway. Is same thing with the towers, where your psyche feels comfortable doing that. That is an innate energetic preference. So then you get into may combine here, which is how far it goes up the face. So that shows where in the hierarchy your psyche feels comfortable. That doesn't mean the Z and I cannot be some of the most humane, caring people on the planet, because the data shows that they are. So it's tricky trying to figure that out, but we have to deal with the fact that I believe we are observing specialized qualia categories. And it involves things where you emote and you neutralize, how easy or hard that is to do in general, and then which phase of the articulation resonating is more comfortable. And then the fact that those things heavily influence life trajectories. And just to answer one more thing about how I was able to see something was off, and I mentioned that you had to read the lens doing the reading. As a part of that, it's important to emphasize how subtle these cues can be, although they're regular and their impact is so powerful. But they are subtle, so other things can throw it off, which is why I am doing the media grade now, A, B, C, and D. And so when you guys are asking what's a Naiji anymore? I know I feel the same thing when these things happen. When you wonder about that, being able to go to the A grade sample, the easiest to read samples, and having the cues pop out to you, revalidating okay, that's what it looks like. And then as the samples get more where they are a tougher sample, for example, there are some people who have oddly shaped mouths, or they have really big teeth, or some other things like that. And that feature is more dramatic than the subtle flexations of the cheeks, right? A lot of people have trouble with beards because it's like a statement that artistically grabs the eye stronger than perhaps the cues are because of their subtlety. So that's something that needs to be aware of, is that it's subtle and that it can be easily sort of clouded by something else. And then when you touch those clouds, you can feel like you're touching the actual terra firma of the instrument, but you're not. You're touching like a dense cloud that's over it. And then that should ping back to you, something's off. But because it's subtle, sometimes you can have a rationalization come into your head that is stronger than that ping. So it's a subtle ping there, and you have to train yourself that those subtle pings you're getting like you're doing now. The mouth, how it goes, really zoning, and what does that mean? And realizing that has a lot of import. Otherwise, other things visually and other things that are rattling around in your head as far as distractions, and I apply this to myself for sure, they can come in and they can dominate your mental conversation. Don't forget that it's not straight to your eyeball into total recognition and then speaking. Going from the eyeball in, there are several things that look at it before it gets to you. And that's why, again, you have to do fifth gear at a certain point of your training and understand what's tugging on you, because without that, the tugs not only happen, they happen without your notice. And then you think that you're reading oh, I'm doing this, but it's not. It's something other. It is a mirage, a facade, and one may not have the proper previous experience to recognize that's happening, or the deftness and precision to be able to lock in once they realize there is possibly an error.